They love you.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be here. Thanks for that introduction and warm welcome. I'm honored to be addressing this distinguished crowd of energy leaders from around the world. I'm honored to serve as President Trump's 17th Secretary of Energy. Energy is the enabler of everything that we do, everything. Energy is not a sector of the economy. Energy is the sector of the economy that enables all the others. Energy is life. I'm honored to play a role in reversing what I believe has been very poor direction in energy policy. The previous administration's policy was focused myopically on climate change, with people as simply collateral damage. My predecessor was on this stage 1 year ago saying that LNG exports would soon be in the rear-view mirror. Think about that for a moment. Natural gas today supplies 25% of global primary energy and has been the fastest growing source of energy over the last 15 years. Wind and solar, the darlings of the last administration and so much of the world today, supply roughly 3% of global primary energy. You often hear larger numbers quoted, but that is because of a thermal equivalent scale-up. I don't believe that scale-up is justified. Hence, I stick with the actual energy produced. Everywhere wind and solar penetration have increased significantly, prices on the grid went up and stability of the grid went down. Is this pathway really going to put natural gas in the rearview mirror? Nitrogen fertilizer, synthesized from natural gas, is responsible for fully half of global food production. Natural gas is also the largest source of home heating in the United States. It is central to the rapidly growing petrochemical industry and the largest supplier of process heat for manufacturing steel, cement, countless metals, gypsum, semiconductors, polysilicon, and thousands of other materials. Oh yes, and natural gas is also responsible for 43% of US electricity. Beyond the obvious scale and cost problems, there is simply no physical way that wind, solar, and batteries could replace the myriad uses of natural gas. I haven't even mentioned oil or coal yet. I spent my whole career as an entrepreneur and student of energy. I have worked on nuclear, solar, oil, geothermal, and natural gas. I was actively involved working in 4 of these energy technologies just a few weeks ago when I got my new job. My new job rightfully necessitated that I depart and completely divest from all of my ventures in the energy business. I even resigned from my long-term board position with a free market environmental organization. But my passion for bettering human lives via improved access to energy is unwavering. Recently, I have been called a climate denier or climate skeptic. This is simply wrong. I am a climate realist. I've been studying, speaking, and writing about climate change for over 20 years. The Trump administration will treat climate change for what it is, a global physical phenomenon that is a side effect of building the modern world. We have indeed raised global atmospheric CO2 concentration by 50% in the process of more than doubling human life expectancy, lifting almost all of the world's citizens out of grinding poverty, launching modern medicine, telecommunications, planes, trains, and automobiles too. Everything in life involves trade-offs. Everything. Responses to climate change bring their own set of trade-offs. The Trump administration will end the Biden administration's irrational, quasi-religious policies on climate change that imposed endless sacrifices on our citizens. Running the math on what might have been the benefits from these policies yields perhaps only a few hundredths of a degree reduction in global temperatures in the year 2100. The Trump administration intends to be much more scientific and mathematically literate. The previous administration's climate policies have been impoverishing to our citizens, economically destructive to our businesses, and politically polarizing. The cure was far more destructive than the disease. There are no winners in that world, except for politicians and rapidly growing interest groups. The only interest group that we are concerned with is the American people. Our focus will be steadfast on the American people and our allies abroad. Let's do a quick survey of energy access today. Roughly 1 billion people live lives remotely recognizable to us in this room. We wear fancy clothes, mostly made out of hydrocarbons. We travel in motorized transport. The extra lucky of us fly across the world to attend conferences. We heat our homes in winter, cool them in summer, store myriad foods in our freezers and refrigerators, and have light, communications, and entertainment at the flip of a switch. Pretty awesome. This lifestyle requires an average of 13 barrels of oil per person per year. What about the other 7 billion people? They want what we have. The other 7 billion people, on average, consume only 3 barrels of oil per person per year versus our 13. Africans average less than 1 barrel. We need more energy. Lots more energy. That much should be obvious. Over half of people today are wearing hand-washed clothes. They have yet to realize the time-saving and women-liberating joys of a washing machine. We need more energy. Over 2 billion people today cook their daily meals and heat their homes burning wood. The indoor air pollution from this activity alone is estimated to kill over 2 million people annually. We need more modern energy. 2 million readily preventable deaths. Where is the COP conference for this far more urgent global challenge? Back in our own country, over 20% of Americans struggle to pay their energy bills, and roughly 10% have received a utility disconnection notice in the last 12 months. Think about that for a moment. The last administration recklessly pursued policies that were certain to drive up electricity prices, knowing full well that millions of additional Americans would have to look in their kids' eyes and tell them that their lights might be going out. That sends a chill down my spine. The expensive energy or climate policies that have been in vogue among the left in wealthy Western nations have taken a heavy toll on their citizens. Making energy more expensive has impoverished citizens and displaced energy-intensive manufacturing, along with the well-paying blue-collar jobs. Expensive energy policies do not reduce demand for energy-intensive materials. They simply move where those products are produced, and therefore who benefits from their production. China now consumes nearly 3 times as much energy in manufacturing than the United States. 3 times. We have outsourced far too much manufacturing, and our allies in Europe have gone much further in this destructive direction. I find it sad and a bit ironic that once mighty steel and petrochemical industries of the United Kingdom have been displaced to Asia, where the same products will be produced with higher greenhouse gas emissions, then loaded on a diesel-powered ship back to the United Kingdom. The net result is higher prices and fewer jobs for UK citizens, higher global greenhouse gas emissions, and all of this is termed a climate policy? President Trump was elected to bring back common sense to Washington, D.C. Let me hit a few of the highlights of America's common sense pivot in energy. No more all-of-government approach to making energy more expensive, less reliable, and making it nearly impossible to build large-scale things in our country. We are unabashedly pursuing a policy of more American energy production and infrastructure, not less. Our goal is to Thank you. Our goal is to re-industrialize America, not de-industrialize America. President Trump immediately ended the pause on LNG export permits. Today I can announce our fourth action in this regard, improving the Delfin offshore Louisiana LNG export terminal. This is in addition to previous actions on the Commonwealth and Golden Pass LNG projects and our actions to enable the bunkering of LNG for powering tanker ships. Hard to believe there was opposition to these policies that so clearly benefit Americans, our allies, and our environment. We are working to launch the long-awaited American nuclear renaissance, fission and fusion. Thank you. The same goes for next-generation geothermal energy. We want more reliable, affordable, secure energy. We are reversing policies that force consumers to pay more for clothes washers and dryers, hot water heaters and dishwashers that deliver inferior performance. Our goal is lower cost and higher performance. Is that radical? We also plan to reverse the destructive mandates forcing everyone to buy EVs that have been wreaking havoc on our auto industry and forcing higher prices and reduced choices on consumers. I could go on, but I'll end with a few words about AI. AI is going to be truly transformative, many of the ways in which we can't even foresee today. We are already experiencing the impacts, the benefits in consumer services and education, and also with business efficiencies. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Combining AI and quantum computing to drug discovery is likely to yield simply breathtaking results. The same is true for potential advancements in fusion energy, likely to be demonstrated during this administration. I've been visiting our national laboratories, which are underappreciated gems in our country. The excitement is palpable to apply AI specifically for scientific advancement. AI impacts on national defense, both offensive and defensive, are likely also transformative. The implications on national defense make it simply critical that America leads the AI race. We have the talent, innovative spirit, and leading companies to win, but all that won't matter if we can't deliver the energy. AI is an energy-intensive manufacturing industry. It takes massive amounts of electricity to generate intelligence. The more energy invested, the more intelligence produced. Since the demand for energy is unlimited, since the demand for intelligence is unlimited, so will be the demand for energy. Over the last 4 years, American electricity prices rose by over 20%, with only about 2% demand growth. Clearly, that trajectory is a train wreck waiting to happen as we enter a period of rapid demand growth for electricity. Our 180-degree pivot will have to work at warp speed to enable the needed growth in electricity supply without saddling consumers with ever-rising electricity prices. Consumers are rightly upset with the price rises over the last 4 years. This is a daunting challenge. Success will require significant regulatory changes, massive private capital deployment, and innovative partnerships. None of this will be possible without thoughtful, rational policies on energy and a truly honest assessment of climate change. We are entering truly exciting times for human progress if we play our cards right, if we can get out of the way and unleash the human spirit. I look forward to working with all of you to better energize the world and fully unleash human potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you for setting out that policy agenda. I'd like to begin with a kind of maybe slightly odd biographical question. You've described yourself as, when you were growing up, as a nerdy science kid. You've done something that I know that very few other ninth graders in high school did. You bought a nuclear engineering textbook. Why did you do that?
Well, I mean, the obvious reason was to make myself more attractive to the girls in high school.
It's a winner.
Yeah, well, that one might not have worked out so well. The other was, as a kid, I was just simply fascinated with nuclear physics. You know, it started from looking at stars in the sky and then learning how far away they were, and I could see them without binoculars, without any visual aids. I could see things quadrillions of miles away. So my understanding was, how is that possible? What powers that? Now, that's fusion, not fission, but that got me interested in nuclear as an energy source. And there wasn't a lot available in my high school, so yes, I went to B. Dalton bookstore and ordered a nuclear engineering textbook.
Right. So when you went to MIT, you went to study fusion, and then it seemed that fusion was 50 years away. Doesn't seem that way anymore, does it?
No, look, the progress has been steady over the last few decades, but that's a long road to recreate or at least approximate the conditions at the center of the sun on Earth. That's a giant challenge. But humans are ingenious, and we keep getting more and more powerful tools. No, I think we're going to see net energy production out of fusion systems in the relatively near future. I could not be more excited about it.
I mean, one of the things I was remarking to Chris is we would not have thought 3 or 4 or 5 years ago that tomorrow night the Tuesday plenary would be on the subject of fusion. That tells you the time's changing in that regard.
Fantastic.
So you talked about, obviously, the electricity needs of AI. What's on the agenda to actually assure that we have the resilient electricity supplies? What does DOE do in that regard?
That's tricky, and of course it's not just DOE. It's an across-agency approach. One of my colleagues, Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, was dogged in making sure we set up the American Energy Dominance Council. And this isn't a board where a lot of people sit around and cheer energy. This is just people in the current administration that are over agencies or places where policies are made that could impede the building of infrastructure for energy transmission, for AI generation. So this council is set up to enable the things we will need to win the AI race, to allow our private businesses to build data centers and the power needed to supply those at scale and in a timely fashion. That's a dramatic change from where we've been. So it's not going to be easy, but we're committed to getting it done right.
By the way, Secretary Burgum is with us this morning. Very glad to have you with us, so thank you. Is that where the issues of permitting will be addressed in that council?
It will. Just think of how long it takes. And everyone in this room have all developed large-scale projects. Think how long it takes to build anything. If we continue down that fashion, AI is not going to be based in the United States. It's going to be based somewhere else where people can build things quickly and get access to reliable, secure energy quickly. We need to change the way the government works in the United States to make it happen here. But yes, permitting reform is a key part of that.
Right. You talked, of course, about LNG, and you announced another approval. What role do you see U.S. LNG playing in the future in the world?
Look, the quick story on natural gas, 15, 17 years ago, the United States was the world's largest net importer of natural gas. And at that time, we had well over 1,000 rigs drilling furiously in the United States to produce natural gas. And we had natural gas prices roughly twice where they are today. If you correct for inflation, more than twice where they are today. So it peaked at 1,600 rigs drilling for natural gas. Today we have roughly 100 rigs drilling for natural gas, and we've transformed from the world's largest importer to the world's largest exporter. Simply a tremendous story of American innovation, technology, and capital deployment. So it's a tremendous economic advantage for the United States to continue to scale up our gas production, and a tremendous service to our allies around the world who are often counting on unreliable or hostile nations for this critical fuel. As I mentioned in my remarks, natural gas is 25% of global primary energy, and in absolute terms, the fastest growing energy source on the planet. So we want to grow America's production of it, which grows jobs and economic activity in the United States, and have the ability to ship that to our allies around the world.
Right. I think you just said going from 1,600 rigs to 100. That's an improvement in efficiency.
Yeah. And
you
roughly a doubling of production.
Yeah. So, so explain, that's...
Yeah, oil and gas is often thought of as this old, dirty industry that's not too high-tech, and nothing could be further from the truth. I don't know of a transformation that's more greatly impacted the quality of life of Americans and people around the world than the shale revolution, which was done in the United States, all with private money, private capital, and an innovative spirit, not knowing where it would lead. But yeah, I could single out George Mitchell and his business just north and under the city of Fort Worth for his desire to, I got to figure out how to get more gas in this field. But that evolution led to just dramatic increases in productivity per rig to develop natural gas. 1,600 rigs to 100 rigs, 95% decline in the number of rigs drilling, and a doubling of production and a dramatic lowering of costs. That's sort of a win-win-win. I talked about some lose-lose-loses on the podium, and maybe to simply state it, the new administration, our goal is win-win-wins, and we want as little as possible. In fact, we want to end any effort at lose-lose-loses.
Right.
We're radical.
Right. So, but I guess we could say you're still a nerdy science kid, and you just visited 3 of the national labs, and you made it clear that you're going to visit the other 14 in the next 9 months. What's your takeaway in terms of their role in innovation and in AI?
You don't hear so much about our national labs. We have a lot of them. It started from the Manhattan Project during World War II. To me, still the greatest rushed scientific engineering achievement of all time. In less than 2.5 years, we built buildings, convened the world's greatest physicists and engineers, finished the understanding of the physics behind fission energy, and delivered an atomic bomb, bringing an earlier end to World War II, saving tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of American lives, and putting the United States in a position to win the Cold War. That's the spirit that founded our national labs. At Los Alamos Labs, Oak Ridge Lab, Sandia soon after the war, and then this growing network of labs. As I visit those labs, it is an incredible concentration of scientific and engineering talent, the largest producers of Nobel Prizes in the physical sciences on the planet. So these labs are gems for our country, and they've worked very early on at AI. In fact, I would say the very first rolling of AI was in those labs. When I was at Oak Ridge Lab 10 days ago, roughly, with the co-founder of OpenAI, there was an AI Jam Fest, 1,000 scientists at Oak Ridge Lab working on AI simultaneously. So AI will be driven dominantly by commercial companies, but the basic science and the application of AI to scientific discovery is going to be a critical role with our national labs. Next generation nuclear, fission and fusion, national labs are heavily working on these areas and in cooperation with industry. So look, I'm excited to visit the rest of the labs, but America, we're lucky to have them.
Right, and it's a resource. Many people, as you say, don't recognize that we have this extraordinary resource.
Extraordinary resource.
Yeah. Well, Secretary Wright, thank you very much for visiting with us, and we really appreciate your coming and using CERAWeek to lay out your thinking and your plans as you take on this new job, and we all wish you the very best in it. So thank you indeed.
Thank you. I'll end by saying thank you. Thank you all for working in energy.
Right.